Welcome to the Fandom Outpost, your podcast for all things pop culture.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Fandom Outpost. This is our part 2 of our Director Spotlight, Michael Mann. As always, I'm one-third your host. I'm Mark.
I'm Jim.
I'm Bob. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. And we are going to continue. We stopped last time with a film we all actually do love, really love, Last of the Mohicans from Michael Mann. It's what brings him into the public's eye. He made films before that. He was involved in TV series. People who are in knew him like, oh, that's a Michael Mann film and stuff. But that's what really got him broadly looked at. And of course, he follows that up with, which I guess arguably everybody says is his magnum opus, Heat. I don't even know where to begin. Anybody?
Yeah, I mean, where do you begin with this movie?
So,
it's
Well,
just a...
do you begin with it's like Godzilla versus King Kong? We have two titans of acting coming together for finally the first time
I know, right?
with De Niro and Pacino.
Pacino, right.
right on screen at the same time, right?
That's what anybody talked about.
Are they on screen at the same time?
They are. So they have two scenes together. That's what's crazy. The movie feels like it's 6 hours long. It's only about 3 hours and something. And they only have two scenes together because one is a criminal, a robber, or excuse me, a thief. And the other is a robbery homicide detective. So why would they share screen time together? They wouldn't. But they have what is considered, if you are fans of The Dark Knight, there's a scene with Batman and Christian Bale's Batman and Heath Ledger's Joker in an interrogation room. Everybody refers to that scene as the Heat scene of Batman, where you bring these two titans together. And this is Batman, the Joker, and the caliber of actors. So at the time, and I don't have when it came out, the movie 95,
yeah.
But it comes out, and that's all anybody could talk about. These two titans in the same scene together. And apparently it's a tourist attraction now to go into that restaurant and sit at that table.
And sit at that
booth. They've
funny.
kept it going for
Admit
years.
it, you'd be there.
Yep. If you ever get a chance to listen to any of the behind the scenes for that movie, I strongly recommend it. Commentaries, directors, actors, because there's stuff that was done in there that's ad-libbed, that was reshot, that was how do we light this? How do we do this circle camera around these two guys in one take? It's not my favorite Michael Mann film, and we'll talk about that, but I think it was a time and place where everything in the universe came together. And to this day, the one who gets talked about the most is actually Val Kilmer. His role, he gets talked about the most. There's a small role with Hank Azaria in there that Al Pacino improvised where he's like, because she's got a great ass and your head's all up in it. Go watch it, dude. It's hilarious because they always say Hank Azaria's his look is real because he wasn't expecting Pacino to go off like that.
Why'd I get mixed up with that bitch? Because she got a great ass. And you got your head all the way up it. Jesus.
There's a recent interview on Variety magazine I saw with Michael Mann talking about that scene, and Mann says that his best takes are around 5 or 6, I think. If you work through the first 3, 4, just work through it, and then he hit that 5, 6 stride, and then after to get that stride, he'd say, "Let me do a wild one. Let me do something." And
let me do a wild one.
Hazaria didn't know about that technique, and he just went off. He went off on him on the wild one, and Hazaria's just like, "What the hell?
She's got a great ass." Dude, I remember the first time I saw it in the theater, I was in my seat and I went, oh. I leaned back. I was like, what is he doing? That was a crazy moment to me and stuff. So Heat is the big screen culmination of a story that Michael Mann did in between his run on Crime Story and Last of the Mohicans called L.A. Takedown. Same characters, same script, same story. But this was to the big screen. And he had always wanted to he thought the story of L.A. Takedown deserved a bigger canvas, quote. So, and he's not wrong. People probably still cite this as one of their top 10s of all time. As far as the crime aspect goes, It fits right in with what Mann does until arguably it is the number one climactic shootout in film history. What do you guys want to say about Heat?
It had a very stylistic approach to a crime thriller, again, which is Michael Mann's calling card. But I think it's known for that bank robbery scene, isn't it? On the streets, it was very
at the
realistic.
end, that's the climax of the film. Yeah.
Now, isn't it used by like police and stuff as a
Actually,
like
they use it.
Loading and unloading. Isn't that like it's like a training thing now?
Yeah, they use that in training for it. Yeah. Michael Mann said, "Well, I don't want to do motion picture style. I want this thing to sound like it should." So I guess the sound is actual sound of the shootout. Live rounds, not like real bullet rounds, but like the live rounds. So the ricochets off the buildings, you can hear it in the sound quality of it. Using that at the end, it really had people going like, holy cow, what is that? What's going on and stuff. So there's 4 or 5 deep characters on each side. So Neil McCauley, played by Robert De Niro, he's got 4 or 5 characters in his crew. And then
Tom Sizemore in there.
Yeah, Vincent Hanna, played by Al Pacino, he's got 4 or 5 in his robbery homicide. And basically, it's a simple movie. It's
Heist,
about
right?
a big heist that wants to go down. It's a robbery being planned. Oh, and our boy Tom Noonan shows up towards the end. He's the one that puts Robert De Niro onto the score. It's considered Mann's best by a lot of people. It's referenced in so much. It's referenced in pop culture. Michael Mann has this, I called it the roller coaster thing, where it's like for 2 hours and 45 minutes, he brings you up the roller coaster. It's all character development. It's character backstory and all this stuff where you are invested in all of these characters, even the ones that you only get a scene or two. And then he just turns it loose for the last 15 minutes of a movie. I consider him that type of director where your ending is going to be that type of ending. The shootout in downtown Los Angeles is the payoff, like Jim said. Police departments use that as training now.
And you got John Voight, the fencer, isn't he?
The fencer, he's the go-between. So John Voight has a wonderful behind-the-scenes commentary about his look. He's got all this makeup. When people came to the set and they saw him, there was this murmur going around, be like, oh my God, he's really let himself go. Where if you look at his character in the film, it's all makeup. Like he's supposed to look that way. But everybody was like, are you okay? Are you feeling all right? They really thought that's what he looked like, because he hadn't been in stuff in a while. So I thought that was a great story. So Vincent Hanna, Al Pacino, has a love interest who has a daughter. Natalie Portman is her daughter.
Oh,
so, and there's a Miami Vice regular who plays the biological father. And he's not in the picture. Al Pacino's trying to fill that role, and it doesn't work. Our boy Wes Studi is one of the robbery homicide guys. I love it.
Ted Levine.
Yep, Ted Levine. He's another one. And the movie is split up into 2 acts, really. First act is all about them and their personal lives and how they handle it with the work that they do. He sticks to his mantra. So the Robert De Niro character does stick to his mantra.
Guy told me one time, don't let yourself get attached to anything you are not willing to walk out on in 30 seconds flat if you feel the heat around the corner.
There is William Fichtner. You guys remember him? You know who he is, right? Name sound familiar?
Oh, yeah.
He's in Batman Begins. He's the banker in Batman Begins. Coincidentally, he plays a banker in this movie. And Henry Rollins, spoken word musician, singer, he plays William Fichtner's right-hand man. So there's a little mini action scene in the beginning that gives you an idea of how these guys can go from 0 to 60. The bad guys, by the way, they can go from 0 to 60 in like 10 seconds. Kudos to Michael Mann for introducing us to the smart villain. There have been many smart villains over the years, but this movie is about 2 characters at the top of their game. They're both intelligent. They both make mistakes. Their love lives are for shit, but they are smart characters. They know what they're doing on either side of that coin. There's this weird music cue at the end during the firefight for 15 minutes. That's all it is. There's no sound. It's the guys jockeying for position to get to De Niro's coming out of the bank, and it's just this music cue. To me, after that, I know that the public opinion of Michael Mann is like, he never quite achieved that heat quality. but I'm going to start some controversy when we get down there. His follow-up is called The Insider. It's an amazing film. It gets high 7.8 on IMDb. It only made $60 million.
It had a lot of buzz, though, when it came out.
Yeah, well, you know why? It's based on a true story of an insider in Big Tobacco who ratted out Big Tobacco. Right. His name was Jeffrey Wigand, played by, oh my God, one of my faves, Russell Crowe. And again, he taps Al Pacino to play the producer. And there's somebody else in this really high caliber. Christopher Plummer plays, actually, he
60
plays
Minutes.
The 60 Minutes guy, Mike
Wallace.
Mike Wallace, yeah. So it's a true story, but it's high dramatics, and I recommend it. And it was great that he decided to do that. You know, it's like, you know what I liken it to? I'm gonna throw out this for you guys. After Gladiator, what does Ridley Scott do? He makes a small movie, I think, with Russell Crowe called A Good Year, which is this weird, independent type of small dramatic comedy. I recommend it. Go see it. It's a fantastic movie if you can ever get a hold of that one. And then he does the one that perhaps gets the most hype, Ali, arguably, guys.
Oh, sure. Well, that's a big studio picture with a big studio star and telling a big studio tale about a world famous
man. Yep. Jamie Foxx is a tertiary character in there that got a lot of praise for his performance, more so than Will Smith, who got a lot of praise
Jamie Foxx
as well.
Starts to turn that corner from comedy.
He's moving quick at this pace. He's on his way to Ray.
Is this like, Will Smith's I'm going for an Oscar bid kind of thing?
It could have been. I don't know if he himself thought that, but dude, I mean, you look at the performances in there, even like the 3 and 4 down managers, Cutman, like it's a really good film.
And kudos to Will Smith for, this is as far removed as a Will Smith character. This isn't him playing upon his personality or his public, persona. Mm-hmm. This is him doing a deep character study on a beloved sports figure.
And he does it justice. Like it's hard because he still does look like Will Smith, but he acts and sounds. I mean, he does a really good job. I don't want to say impression, but
physical
transformation
and everything. Yeah.
I remember when it came out, it was like the big deal was that Will Smith threw himself so fully into this role.
Right. The next 3 that Mann does, he does Collateral, Miami Vice, and Public Enemies. I'm just going to briefly touch on Miami Vice, which was the big screen version of his TV series. It tanked. It was a dud, even though it made $163 million. Nobody liked it because they thought it was going to be Heat 2.0. It had character build up until a big shootout at the end. Public Enemies got a lot of hype because Christian Bale and Johnny Depp. Right. They threw themselves into those roles. Christian Bale has the tougher role. He's got to play the straight guy, almost like the Elliot Ness, version of what he's got to do. And it's basically the showdown between those guys, which is anticlimactic. If you know the real story, it's anticlimactic. They catch Dillinger coming out of a movie theater, and a couple dudes are like, we're not going to go. Oh, Stephen Lang. Stephen Lang, I think, is the guy who ends up shooting him. I want to circle back to a film called Collateral. Very important for a couple of reasons. Important because Jamie Foxx, coming off of Ali, so Michael Mann being impressed with his work, says, I'm going to cast him for my next 3 movies: Ali, Collateral, Miami Vice. Collateral, Jamie Foxx plays a cab driver. However, the antagonist of the movie is
Mr. Cruise.
Mr. Cruise, right.
Tom Cruise plays, if I've done my research correctly, the one and only time he has played a villain. And he changed his hair. He salt and peppered his hair. He did a crew cut. And Bob just made us watch his favorite clip from the movie right before we started this.
Yo, homie. That my briefcase?
Is your briefcase? Yeah, it is. Why, you want it back?
What about your wallet?
What else you got for me? Huh?
Bob, I want to hear what you got to say about it.
The 2 characters are what drives this movie, and it's Jamie Foxx being held for fear of his life to transport Vincent, right, the Tom Cruise character, to where he needs to go. I can't remember exactly what the mission of Vincent is.
Vincent's mission is he has 5 stops that he has to make. I will pay you X amount of hundreds of dollars to take me those 5 stops because Vincent is an assassin and he's got to get to these guys.
Fox is fearing for his life if he doesn't, and every time he tries to make a turn to get out of the deal, to escape, he's drawn back in somehow. And
yeah.
And Cruise plays this wonderful villain. I mean, it's a very unusual to see him play that cold-blooded of a killer,
right,
as a character. He's usually such a, the likable guy next door kind of thing.
The charming guy. Yeah.
He's charming. He's not too charming in this. He's really a tough badass.
He does start out charming. That's the thing. Before he realizes what Vincent does, there is some nice charming thing. He's like, come on, man, what's your dreams, what's your hopes and stuff, until he gets to the first hit, and that's when it all goes south, and that's when he turns into there's a switch. And I know that those people who love Tom Cruise, they're going to say that's why he's Tom Cruise. He's able to switch into that cold-bloodedness, and that's the remainder of the movie where he's like almost prisoner, right? Would you agree with that, Bob?
Yeah,
hostage.
Hostage.
Oh, hostage. Yeah.
He's a hostage.
Yeah.
Was it Mark Ruffalo is the cop, right?
He's the cop that's trying to unravel the case.
What's going on?
Because he thinks Fox is part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, he thinks Vincent might be the killer, and a lot of people do, but Mark Ruffalo's like, I don't think so. It doesn't add up and all this. Because Vincent doesn't allow himself to be recorded or seen. So he makes Fox do some things in the public eye, knowing that he's probably being watched, I guess. Is that a fair assumption to say? He's being watched for that stuff. But I guess we should say this, too. In the beginning of the movie, Jamie Foxx is all about this cab life, and he has this picture of a tropical island. So, of course, he has this dream that he just wants to do what he wants to do and leave. He picks up a fare that is Jada Pinkett Smith. We don't know what she does. We don't know anything about her. He picks up and he takes her, and they have a wonderful conversation. She's enjoying it, and I think he's like, oh, man, I should have talked to her and stuff or something. And so there's kind of a chemistry there. You find out that the final victim is her. She's the one that
heading to,
Vincent is actually heading to the ultimate goal. It all has to do with this corporate shenanigans. She's going to blow the whistle on people. There's a funny scene in there when Jamie Foxx shows up to her, and she thinks he's crazy because he's like, you got to listen to me. Like he's really wigging out on it and stuff. And, I mean, how would you feel if a dude suddenly walks up to you and be like, hey, you're going to get killed? So.
Well, why do you like this so much, Mark? What strikes you about
I'm not a fan of Tom Cruise. And the fact that this guy was the fact that Michael Mann has been the only dude in Tom Cruise's career that lured him out of being the hero, the absolute star, and I saved the day to do this, has got to tell you something about the caliber of that director, which is why we're doing this part 2, and we did a part 1.
That's true. Yeah, that's a big ask.
And the fact that Vincent is so cold-blooded, so well-written, there's no redeeming qualities about this guy. We learn backstory, which is okay, but he's a 1.5 dimensional character that's like, if you cross my path, I'm what
like
would you call that? Yeah, dude. Yeah. He's like, I'm going to do what I got to do. There's a scene in there where they go to a jazz club and they're talking to
Barry Shabaka Henley.
There you go.
Plays Daniel.
Yeah, well, they have a long talk with him, and the whole time there's tension built up because you know that Tom Cruise is there to kill this character, and Jamie Foxx is just, he's a wreck because he's like, when it's going to happen. And at the very end, Tom Cruise kind of gives you the impression that he's not going to do it, and then out of the blue, he does do it rather brutally and quickly. That sets the tone for a lot of it. Oh, and also, unlike Mann, who, if you've listened to me for 2 podcasts now, or I do the roller coaster thing, this kind of has that, but it doesn't.
I do remember reading that it was one of his first digitally shot movies. He wanted to get a certain look to it.
Yep, it looked amazing.
Certain contrast, like a different contrast look. It is an interesting movie to watch. The color palette and everything.
I do seem to remember it was well reviewed when it came out. Maybe particularly because Tom Cruise took a different role, and kudos to him on that. A lot of the times, he tends to be Tom Cruise and everything. Because he's a movie star of a higher caliber superstar. like people like him, and I always find like Jack Nicholson to me is always Jack Nicholson in everything he's in, right? He's a personality versus a character.
That Vincent character in Collateral is so intense, and it had me. I got to say this honestly, I didn't know what Vincent was going to do in the movie. I couldn't read his path. Bob asked me this a minute ago. What I really like about it, Jamie Foxx is everyman. He doesn't, oh, I got my gun and I go up against him. No, he's a cab driver throughout the whole movie, And when he tries to help and stuff, he's just the cab driver.
Bumbling and
he's bumbling and all this stuff. Yeah. So that's why I tell everybody, if you get through it, get to the climax, even though you're like, oh, okay, it's still, I think it's an absolute realistic climax. I think it's an amazing film, and it ends. It just ends. There's not, are you going to run off into the sunset with me? Oh my God, I love you. And it just ends. It's like,
story of an ordinary man put in an extraordinary situation.
I think that it should be talked more about, but unfortunately it gets overshadowed by Heat every single time. I would like to say this, though. I'm not sure if it was Michael Mann's idea, but it's awesome. It's an in-universe connection with the Transporter series. So if you watch the beginning of the movie, the Transporter, played by Jason Statham, I think his name is Frank. He makes an appearance. He comes in, he's carrying a briefcase, and he gives it to Vincent. So he's delivering what he usually does. He's transporting stuff. So people were like, what? So I'm sure Mann was like, no, but it is. You can totally see it. He's
otherwise anybody else could have played that character, right?
Anybody else could have played that character. The fact that he's in it for 2 seconds, it's awesome.
That's a fun.
Absolutely fun. Yeah. Well, what do you guys say? Oh, by the way, dude, 5 crates.
It's a 5-1 for you.
It's a 5-1 for me, and that's why it's my favorite Michael Mann film.
Michael Mann did a lot of executive producing, and he did a HBO series, Tokyo Vice.
Yep. I think he directed 1 episode.
Yep. Yeah, I believe you're right.
So it's got visuals, though. I have looked at it. It looks like Michael Mann, like it should, but I haven't watched it yet.
He executive produced Ford versus Ferrari, which I really like that movie. That's a really interesting movie.
And a lot of acclaim, right?
I guess his love of cars, which sounds like it goes way back, is leading to the next one, which is his next feature film coming out in November. Ferrari, yeah. So that with Adam Driver as Ferrari, I'm really curious to see that. Yeah.
Don't you check out our Facebook page?
No, what?
Check out our Facebook page.
I only say that because Bob called me out on.
Yeah, there's a page you should check out. It's called the Fandom Outpost.
Only busting you on that because Bob busted me on that last night. So.
Oh my God.
I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. This is coming out. And he's like, yeah, you should really go look at our Facebook page.
Oh my God, that is hilarious. Bob,
we have busy
Bob has
lives.
5 stars on the day. That was awesome. Holy shit, that's funny.
From the teaser trailer, it looked into Adam. I mean, I'm all in on Adam Driver, so he's a really interesting actor. So.
The absolute farthest that dude can run away from Kylo Ren, please. People give him some roles, man. Let him do some other stuff, please. Yeah, so.
He can do it all too. He's been funny on Saturday Night Live. He's funny.
No, he's got
serious.
Humor, so
exactly.
Undercover boss Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
I will say this for Kylo. I think he gets a bad rap. What? Yeah. He's trying to accomplish something that's never been done in the history of the galaxy. Ridiculous. Rule everything. That's impressive. I admire the guy.
Yes. Exactly. Look, I found Kylo Ren's lightsaber. Look at it up close.
Dude, that thing looks dangerous, man. Poorly made, like a little kid made it.
Then you don't have to look at it anymore!
I'm 90% sure Matt is Kylo Ren.
I forget that's the one.
That is amazing. That's absolutely hilarious. So Michael Mann's in this certain category. He's in our Martin Scorsese category. He's in my Ridley Scott category. There's these guys, and eventually we're going to have to talk about it. But yeah, Friedkin, whom we lost recently. I just don't see. I'm not sure if we're seeing the caliber. There's good movies, okay? Like A24 is kicking ass with everything. They're making amazing films, but I just don't know how I feel about any directors yet. Like, I'm not familiar with a lot of stuff. Although I'm going to do a quick shout out. I watched The Green Knight. You guys watch that?
I heard good things about that.
That's an A24 film. Holy shit, is that a visual masterpiece? But I just don't know about directors. Like, I think that we got these guys that these legends that we grew up with. That it's almost like I feel sad because Michael Mann can't take on an apprentice. Like, they don't do that. Nobody does that. You got to have your own vision.
Mann was influenced by Kubrick. I know Dr. Strangelove was a big influence on him.
Who are the up-and-coming directors that are influenced by people like Mann?
Edgar Wright is arguably one of those guys. He's influenced by a lot of directors that he makes not only fun, but visually good movies, visually great movies. Sorry, Edgar. Like he makes really good movies. If you haven't seen his stuff, I recommend diving into the Edgar Wright universe of what he does and stuff. So,
yeah, let us know your favorite Michael Mann, right?
Yeah,
let
as
us know
always.
Your thoughts on him.
Yep. Follow us at the Phantom Outpost on social media and everywhere you get your podcast. We really do appreciate if you like and subscribe. It really means a lot to us. I mean, we're just doing this for fun, and we hope you guys enjoy watching and get something out of it.
Appreciate the time you spend with us. Absolutely.
That'll wrap it up for today.
Thanks for joining us.
Guys.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
See you next time.